Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts, and we're also going to go over AMC just for a little extra. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so I actually left work early today because I was not feeling good. I've been up since 3 in the morning. What's funny about that is I'm sure my coworkers probably wanted to see me leave, and I honestly wanted to leave because I cannot stand most of them. But I'm living in their head rent free, and they don't know that I made $700 this morning before I even went into work. So I'm making before I even step foot on the job, I'm already making 3 times as much money as they made for the day. So locked in about $90 in profit through some of the portfolios and options, plus also made $600 in futures on the S&P and the NASDAQ, the futures NASDAQ version. So anyways, even though I've been up since 3 in the morning, I am dedicated to y'all. So let's go ahead and get into it. So LTCN, we did have a little bounce here off of the trend line. As you guys can see, the big macro trend line here, that's always a good sign. So I would say at the very least, again, it looks like we have 20 hours left. So at the very least, if we at least get a bullish hammer candle close, that's a good sign. That could indicate potentially this thing is at least going to try to push back up into the trend line. Whether it gets above it or not, well, that remains to be seen. So the trend line currently is at $24. But once we get past the trend line, we also have to get past the EMAs and also the resistance level. So there's a lot of bearish confluence going on right here. So in my opinion, I could be wrong about this. Maybe it just does it surely on technicals, but it would help a lot if there was some kind of catalyst, like say, for example, maybe the listing of the spot Ether ETFs. So anyways, support is pretty much this bounce point here. So about just under $17. Again, it can come down lower. That's a possibility. So 13 to 15 is what you'd be looking at. Swing high up here, $54, and then above that, respectively, is going to be roughly about 75, 100, and 135. And then after that, you're looking at about $300 to $400. So 173% move, pretty much from the current price. It would probably be quite a bit more if there was another pullback into this trend line, which can happen. I mean, that's possible. So that move would be 231%. As you guys can see, it did ride the trend line quite a bit when this thing was starting to warm up before it actually really took off massively to the upside. The other thing I want to point out too is also the MACD golden cross, or death cross, I should say, death cross. So we had a big death cross way above the zero level here, indicating that the MACD was kind of really seriously overbought. But the reason why I say I think we're not even close to the top yet, as you guys can see, when we take a look at the macro scale of LTCN, you see how high up this MACD is? I mean, this is ridiculous. This thing is all the way up at nearly 100 towards the peak. And we didn't even get to see it because it was still a relatively new fund back then. So you can't even see just how high this thing was. But the MACD and the price over here, you almost can't even see it. It's so small. That's how I know. That's one of the many ways that I know that I am pretty confident that we are not in the actual bull run for these grayscale trusts yet, or anything in crypto really, maybe besides Bitcoin. But I do still think Bitcoin's going to new all-time highs. I would say somewhere between 150 to 200,000, maybe even 250,000. I think is definitely realistic. So let's go over BCHG. This one also has a hammer candle. Ideally, would definitely want to see this one turn green with a green close before this 20 hours left, and kind of get a push maybe up into this resistance. That would always be a good sign. So the optimal buying point is down here at support. So again, that's between $7 to $8. But in my opinion, just my opinion, of course, anything between $8 to $10 is a steal. Honestly, it really is. I mean, this thing was at $24, so you're talking nearly almost a 70% discount at this point. So we'll just measure it from the current price to the swing high. So that's a 165% move. If it does manage to get down here to, like, let's say $7, then that would be roughly about 227% move. And again, I mean, these grayscale trusts have run up a lot, but between the combination of how tiny the market caps are and the fact that more people are going to learn about these during the crypto bull run, because I can pretty much, I can't guarantee anything, but I'm pretty confident that a lot of people that don't know about Grayscale Trust right now, that want to get into crypto, but they're hesitant to dip their toes in the native crypto space because it is complicated, are probably going to want to get into the Grayscale Trusts. That usually happens when you get the FOMO train and everybody's like, oh, you get this massive wave of retail and people that have never been in crypto, or they're back in crypto for the gravy train the second time around. They're going to be looking at the Grayscale Trusts, and that's when you're going to get your serious, like, eye-popping levels of FOMO on the charts. So HZEN, this one, in my opinion, is just unbelievably dirt cheap right now. So it could possibly bounce at 350. That's possible. If it doesn't, it comes down to roughly about 250 to 290. The swing high would be the target up here, so 1050. The resistance above head is going to be roughly about $7 to $8. So just to go from the current swing high, or from the current price to the swing high, is 191% move. If you manage to get it all the way down here, like let's say you get really lucky and this thing just keeps on dipping and just gets cheaper and cheaper, 283% gain from that front. Just to kind of show you guys just how far this has come down already. From wick to wick, it's about 67%. So that's pretty cheap. I mean, these prices are all the way back in February of this year. So you're talking a 4-month retracement at this point. ETCG, I will still argue that I think this kind of line down here on the channel is theoretically the best place to get these prices. So pretty much anywhere between 11 to roughly about 13, I would say, is a good buying point at this point. So from that point to the most recent swing high is 57%, and pretty much from the low on the channel there all the way to the swing high is 73%. And again, ETCG is not really going to seriously run up until ETH runs up as a result of the spot Ether ETFs, which again, in my opinion, I could be wrong about this, but I think next month we're going to see some actual listings. So, and when we do, ETH and ETCG and Ethereum Classic are probably going to have some seriously eye-popping gains. Might take a few months to play out, but I would not be surprised. So ETH cup and handle, again, cup and handle target is pretty much basically on par with the all-time highs. So $46 is what you'd be looking at here. We did have a breakout. It can do anything in between now and the target. That is always a possibility. So from the current price to the target, it'd be about 42%. Again, it doesn't seem like much, but I think the spot Ether ETFs are really going to rocket these things to just stupid prices. So 25 to 29.5 is going to be roughly about your entry point. Again, that's of course, you guys can do what you want to with your own money. That's not financial advice. I'm just telling you where the ideal entry would be. So 89% would be that move. Phil G. So yeah, that's a shooting star candle. That's not great. So if this thing closes like that, I do suspect even if it is green, it's likely going to push down into the support. So again, that's $36 to $40. I mean, just from the current price to the swing high is already a pretty substantial gain. So that's 442%. However, if you manage to get it in the support here all the way to the swing high, it's life-changing money. I mean, that's, almost 1,000% gain. That's huge. So GBAT, this thing is, I mean, it had like a pump fake here. It looked like it wanted to go up, and then it basically just dove off a cliff. It didn't really confirm bullish like I thought it was going to. That does happen. I mean, it's, trading is unpredictable. Everything that we do here is based on probabilities. So if we got a little green candle to poke out of here and close, that would have been confirmation that we were going to zoom to the upside, but we didn't get that. So as of right now, I'd say this is a pretty good place to maybe start picking some up, maybe DCA on the way down into the bottom of the support. Again, the support is $7.70 to roughly about $10. Swing highs up at 32. The reason I think that that level likely is going to hold, and again, that is a 303% gain, is because you have this reversal hammer candle here. So you have a big red bar, a reversal hammer candle right at support in the EMAs, and then a big green bar. Plus, you also have these candle tops. So you had this breakout here, and you guys can see this green candle. Once we got this close above support here, I mean, this thing just took off like a rocket ship to the upside. So it's a very substantial level. So GLIV, no clear direction on this thing yet. I would say likely it probably is going to come back down to support because we're getting a lot of red here. I mean, we had red here, tried to get above this trend line, couldn't do it, and then getting 4 more weeks of red at this point. So support is between 11 to 1460. Resistance going to be up here at $80. And for those of you guys that are wondering, like, oh, well, why is crypto not going up? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things. Like I've told you before, it's macroeconomics, the Fed and the rate hikes, and inflation and unemployment, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But not to mention Bitcoin and altcoin did just have a massive move. Okay, not so much altcoins, but Bitcoin's at all-time highs, and altcoins had something similar to the summer DeFi of 2020. So, a cooling off period before the end of the year, before the spot Ether ETFs would make perfect sense. I mean, I would expect nothing less if I'm being completely honest. So 217% move here. If you manage to scoop it up all the way down in support, and again, support is a pretty substantial drop here, 503%. G-Link, so yep, this one's looking very similar to GLIV. I suspect it's probably going to come back down to 66 to roughly about $86. So we'll say about a $20 range there. 220 is the peak. So again, it's impossible to time the bottom perfectly. So if you manage to get it somewhere in the middle of the support zone, that's obviously very good, especially if it moves back up to the swing high. So on nearly 200% gain on that one. Okay, so GSOL, this thing is having a shooting star candle. It is still green, but a shooting star is a shooting star in my book. So if this does close as green, that's a major warning sign. If it closes as red and gets below the EMAs, that's a yikes. Okay, this thing could be about ready to sell off a cliff. Plus, you can also see that it is kind of tapping these candle lows here. If it gets a close below, I would say this red candle right here at 350, this thing very likely is probably going to shoot straight down to support. So 167 to 200 is the support there. The swing high is roughly about 580, as you guys can see. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this to the swing high. You'd be looking at roughly about 210% on that one. GXLM, I'll pretty much say the same thing I said last time. Anything between $25 and pretty much this trend line here. So 25 to 31 is perhaps maybe a good accumulation area. Again, take that with a grain of salt. You guys can do what you want to with your own money. So $70 is the target. Let's just say you get your average at 27, so somewhere in between there. Swings back up to the highs, so that's 150% gain. Mana, this thing is perfectly in the buy zone. I don't think I need to say more than that. I mean, it's pretty much as close to the bottom as humanly possible. Again, there is one more trading day, so markets are closed right now, but there is one more trading day before the end of the week, so you will have tomorrow to get this one if that's what you want to do. So this area is going to be between 18 to 20. It's pretty much perfectly in the middle of that zone right now, and the high up here is at $70. So basically pretty much right at this point, you're looking at nearly a 3.5x. Zcash, yeah, this one's trying to push below the EMAs. I'm going to go ahead and wager here that I think because we have a high, low, lower high, and a confirmed lower low right here, I would say likely this is going to come back down to this white line and test at 320. Again, the 10.25 is the target up there. So if you manage to get it, let's just say, I don't know, $3.50, so somewhere around the middle, 190% gain. Okay, so that's Grayscale. Let's go ahead and get into AMC. All right, so AMC, as you guys can see here, not really doing much. This thing's just kind of bobbing around. The thing I do want to point out here is that we are now starting to push and test the top of this falling wedge. And again, in theory and trading practice theory, the target for the wedge pattern is basically always the start of the wedge. So in this case, it would be $14 is what we'd be looking at. We did not even hit that previously. The other thing I want to point out is there is a possible trend change taking place as we speak right now. So we have this low, high, lower low, and now we have what would be considered to be a new higher low. Okay. So this is difficult to explain in a short video because, again, we're talking about market structure, but you have a low here, and then you have a high, higher low, and now a higher high. Again, these candle closes right here are above this level, which indicates it's not a strong confirmation of a trend change, but it is actually a trend change. So I do want to point that out. I do want to point out also that theoretically, this thing is still going down, even though it's actually going up while the MACD is going up. We've been in oversold on the RSI for eons. So bullish divergence on the macro scale here. Again, I would say we're pretty much beyond overdue at this point for a massive reversal to the upside. The shorts have been trying to sell this thing into hell for eons now, and for the most part, they've succeeded. But I have a feeling that their time is about to be due. And, these guys are playing with fire at this point, and I think if they continue to try to short this, they may end up going bankrupt. That's just my opinion, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. So again, these gaps are likely going to be filled. I keep pointing these out, but gaps always get filled on the indexes like 99% of the time, okay? So I suspect this is not going to be any different. And again, the gaps have to get filled after they occur. So what that means basically is the price has to go up to fill the gap, and the first gap would be at 16 to 1950. Second gap would be at basically $36 to $43. So what could happen here is we get a break of the wedge, come up to the target at the top of the wedge, kind of bob around in here for a little bit in this area, breakout, retest as support. So we would hit the confirmation of the wedge, breakout, retest as support, and then we go and fill the gap, okay? Then we kind of chop around in between the gap and maybe this new support area here, and then we fly up to 36.50 to 43 after that to fill the second gap. That would be, in my opinion, likely what's going to happen. So in terms of shares, still got a lot of shares here. So you guys can see we're down quite a bit. Unfortunately, 668 average cost basis, 482. We've been in this situation before. We were in it with Soundhound, Tesla, ALT. I mean, I can go on and on about this. Compound. A lot of positions that we were in for underwater for a significant period of time. A lot of those positions we did not add to. We just sat on them. And then eventually they did end up going back in profit. Sometimes it took a week. Sometimes it took a month. Sometimes it took 6 months. It kind of just depends. So we're willing to be patient with this one. But as of right now, 28% drawdown. So it's substantial, but again, a relatively small part of the overall net worth and portfolio. 910 shares and 43 100ths of a share, I guess you'd call it. We have some sell calls on these, but like I said, if the price starts to fly to the moon, then we're going to close out immediately and just let the price ride. We're not going to mess around with it because we don't know exactly how far AMC is going to go in a short period of time. So anyways, this is the Grayscale Trust and AMC. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.